Namaskar, revered Swamis, devotees, and friends. We welcome you all today to this very special spiritual retreat organized by the Vedanta Society Berkeley. As we all know, the 4th of July is the American Independence Day, but it is also a very auspicious day for us devotees because the day held special significance for Swami Vivekananda himself. In 4 of the years that Swamiji spent in this country, being present in July, he celebrated the holiday with his companions and friends. But more notably, on this day in 1898 in Kashmir, just 4 years before his Mahasamadhi, Swamiji had insisted on observing the American Independence Day. At that time, Swamiji had taken some of his close American and English followers, including Sister Nivedita, Josephine McLeod, Mr. and Mrs. Sevier, and Mrs. Oli Bull, to live on a houseboat in the gorgeous Dal Lake in Kashmir. That day, Swamiji appeared before his disciples at the early morning breakfast and loudly read out a poem that he had composed for the occasion titled To the 4th of July. He also celebrated this day by unfurling the American flag that he had earlier very secretly instructed an unskilled tailor to make. The poem itself is a heartfelt expression of a prophet, a great and reverential man. It starts in the dawn in which it was composed, with the victory of day over night, light over dark, and goes on in that victorious vein. But it is not battle victory, it is the triumph of ideas. Thus, we mark this very auspicious day by celebrating Swami Vivekananda and observing this spiritual retreat. We will begin today's retreat in the traditional way with a Vedic chanting by Swami Prasannatmananda, Swami Satyalokananda, and Swami Ishadhyanananda.
madhumat parthivagam rajah madhudorastuna pita madhumanyo vanaspatir madhumagam astu suryah madvirgamo bhavantu nah. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.
Oh, may the Supreme Spirit protect us. May the Supreme Spirit nourish us. May we work together with great energy. May our study be vigorous and fruitful. May love and harmony dwell amongst us. Om, peace, peace, peace be unto all. Om, lead us from the unreal to the real. Lead us from darkness to light. Lead us from death to immortality. Om, peace, peace, peace be unto all. Om, may we hear with our ears what is auspicious. May we see with our eyes what is auspicious. May we sing praises of the creation and enjoy with strong limbs and body the life allotted to us. May all the divine forces be auspicious to us. All peace, 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 peace be unto all. Sweet blow the winds, and oceans give forth blessedness. May the herbs and plants bring us health and happiness. Sweet unto us be the nights and the dawns. May every particle of Mother Earth be charged with blessing. May the heavens shower us with benediction. Sweet unto us be the noble forest trees. Sweet unto us be the shining sun. Sweet unto us be all living creation. Om, sweetness, harmony, peace. Om, all that is invisible is verily the infinite spirit. All that is visible is also the infinite spirit. The whole universe has come out of the infinite spirit. The Supreme Spirit is infinite, although the whole universe has come out of it. Om, peace, peace, peace be unto all.
Now, Swami Prasannatmananda, Minister of Vedanta Society Berkeley, will deliver his welcome remarks.
At the outset, let me offer my pranam to all the Swamis. No. At the outset, hello. At the outset, I would like to offer my pranam to all the Swamis, visiting Swamis present here, and I welcome you all to the day-long spiritual retreat at the holy precinct of Vedanta Society Berkeley on this doubly blessed day. Today is sacred because today is the chariot pulling day, the Ratha Jatra of Sri Sri Jagannath Deva. And today is also the Independence Day. Hence, we consider today is the best day for the spiritual retreat and to commemorate Swami Vivekananda, because on this day he left his mortal frame like a worn out garments. Why do we organize spiritual retreat? What do we achieve from the spiritual retreat? First, in such spiritual retreat, we can get the opportunity to turn our mind inward. When we open our eyes, we see the external world, which is changing every moment of our time. But when we close our eyes, we cannot see this changing. It is changeless, even though our mind continues changing. Why should we turn our mind inward? There is no point of turning our mind inward unless there is something great within us. If everything existed only outside, it would make sense to always keep our eyes open and never look inward. But such is not the case. There is something existing within us too. All the great persons of the world admit the glory of our within. Upanishad discovered the wonderful truth that there is within us exists profound dimension which we have to be realized. In the Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna says to Arjuna, Aham Atman Gudakesha Sarva Bhutasya Sthitaha. I dwell in the heart of all beings. Here Sri Krishna is only the example, the God, the capital G. Jesus Christ says, if he is inside, I must go search for him. Buddha also plunged deep within himself and discovered the infinite and immortal insight. Bodhi means illumination. His last teachings or message to his intimate disciple Ananda was Atmo Deepo Bhava. Light your lamp within. This is what really retreat means. In dictionary, we find the meaning of retreat, withdrawing. Withdrawing from outside and plunge inside. Why? Because the human energy resource are organized in an ascending scale of subtlety, immensity, and inwardness. The more you go inward, deeper and deeper, the more you become closer to your energy source. More subtle, more immense. And ultimately, we come across a true self. Tap out our best, the excellence that is within us. Katha Upanishad says, इंद्रियेभ्य पराह्यर्थ अर्थभ्यश्च परं मनः मनसस्तु परा बुद्धिर आत्मान महान परः. Beyond the senses, there are rudiments of its objects. Beyond these rudiments is the mind. Beyond the mind is the Atman, the Mahat, great. It is good to experience this inwardness of life at least once or twice in a year to feel the vibration of our immensity and infinite potentiality. Today, you will get the environmental support to focus your mind within. Vedic hymns, spiritual songs, enlightening speeches, question answer, meditation, all these will help you to bring your mind within. Try to utilize it. Make your today's visit to Vedanta Society Berkeley fruitful. I request you, try to stay, at least today, far from the madding crowd, use less mobile, and practice more reflection, avoiding unnecessary discussion. Once again, I welcome you all with a prayerful heart so that you can experience the real meaning of Independence Day, which is freedom from this bondage. Thank you.
We will now have a flower offering ritual. You will be handed flowers at your seat by the volunteers, and whoever wants to chant the mantra that Swamiji chants can repeat it after him. After chanting the mantra, the volunteers will come and collect the flowers from you and offer them at the altar.
So everybody got the flower? Upstairs? Upstairs? Okay, I shall utter the mantra and you may repeat the mantra and then the volunteers will go and collect the flowers. Let me start, okay? Om Sthapokaya cha Dharmasya सर्वधर्म स्वरूपिणे अवतार वरिष्ठाय रामकृष्णाय ते नमः. ओम ঐং এষ সচন্দন পুষ্পবিল্লপত্রাঞ্জলি সাঙ্গায় সাবরণায় সশক্তিকায় সপার্শ্বদায় সর্বদেবদেবী স্বরূপায় শ্রীরামকৃষ্ণ পরব্রহ্মণে নমঃ। ওম নিরঞ্জনম নিত্যম অনন্তরূপম ভক্তানুকম্পা ধৃত বিগ্রহম বৈ ঈশাবতারম পরমেশমিত্যম তং রামকৃষ্ণ শিরসা নমামি। জননীং শারদাং দেবীং রামকৃষ্ণ জগদ্গুরুং পাদপদ্মে তয়ো শ্রিত্বা প্রণমামি মুহুর্মুহুঃ। ওম ঐং হ্রিং এষ সচন্দন পুষ্পবিল্লপত্রাঞ্জলি সাঙ্গায় সাবরণায় সশক্তিকায় সপার্শ্বদায় সর্বদেবদেবী স্বরূপিণ্যৈ শ্রী শারদাদেব্যৈ পরব্রহ্মণে নমঃ। ওম যথার্ঘ্ন দাহিকা শক্তি রামকৃষ্ণে স্থিতা হিয়া সর্ববিদ্যা স্বরূপান্তাং শারদাম প্রণমাম্যহম। ওম পরতত্ত্বে সদালীন রামকৃষ্ণ সমাজ্ঞয়া ইয়ো ধর্ম স্থাপনরত বীরেশম তম নমাম্যহম। ওম ঐং এষ সচন্দন পুষ্পবিল্লপত্রাঞ্জলি শ্রীমৎ বিবেকানন্দ নাথায় নমঃ। নমঃ শ্রী যতিরাজায় বিবেকানন্দ সুরয়ে সচ্চিৎ সুখ স্বরূপায় स्वामिने तापहारिणे। Now please offer your flower. The volunteers will go and collect the flowers and they will
acclaimed singer Shumita Chakraborty will now perform a Sanskrit hymn, and this will lead directly into the meditation. Our first speaker this morning is Swami Vivekananda ji, who will present on the subject of spiritual way of facing the world. Swami Vivekananda is a senior monk of the Vedanta Society of Northern California in San Francisco. He is a disciple of Swami Ashokananda. Before taking his monastic vows in 1970, he received a PhD in physics from UC Berkeley. He is well known and respected for his contribution to interfaith dialogues and to guiding students in Vedanta philosophy and religion. Since 2005, he has been leading a discussion group at Stanford University for the study of Vedanta philosophy and the Sanskrit language. The Swami has helped seekers of various faith traditions in spiritual practice and renewal over the years.
Good morning. Since this is the first installment of all the presentations that you'll see this morning, it's appropriate that I actually have chosen to answer or to face this question with a quotation from the first, or one of the first, or the oldest that we have remaining of the Upanishads, namely the Chandogya Upanishad. And the title is The Spiritual Way of Facing the World. So going back to the Upanishads is an appropriate way of approaching this subject, because Vedanta, the end of the Vedas, refers to the Upanishads. Those are the basic scriptures of inspiration for us. Now, in the Chandogya Upanishad, Sarvam Khaliram Brahma, all of this is Brahman. And then it goes on to explain, because when you simply say, oh, this is Brahman, you're still not explaining what this is. Because really, neither do you know what this is, nor do you know what Brahman is. So the explanation needs further elaboration. But the Upanishad goes on to say, Tat July'19. Iti means this is, it explains what this is. And that is a compressed expression which is interpreted to mean Ja, that which is born, La, or Li, that which is destroyed, and An, that which exists, which breathes. All of this, whatever has been created, whatever has been born, whatever exists now, whatever has disappeared or is disappearing in the course of its development, all of this is that. What is that? That reality that is called Brahman. But then it gives a further clue as to how to approach this. And that is Shanta Upasita. One should understand this. One should reach this by becoming calm. In other words, by meditation, by an inner vision, by looking at what is really inside ourselves. So when the statement is made, all this is Brahman, and it further says that everything that has been created and disappeared, everything that will be created, everything is described as being this reality, Brahman. And how are you to discover this? By introspection, by becoming calm, by reducing the disturbances that keep us from seeing the reality. Because everything that we see, when it says everything is Brahman, everything that we experience is that reality. So where would we look for God? Where is God to be found? The answer is, there's no place where God is not. So how are we to understand that? One of the best examples is actually taken from a very common experience when we go for entertainment. We go to a movie theater, we see an entertainment on the screen. Now, we don't experience that entertainment to be real, and yet it is real. In other words, when we're sitting there and we're seeing something happen, like you see a boat on the screen, you see a boat going over a waterfall, and you see tragedy is about to happen. Even though you know it's not actually happening, it is only an image, somehow you're tremendously affected. So what is the cure for that? The cure is to know that what you're looking at is a picture on a screen, and the reality of what you're looking at is the screen. While you're seeing this movie, you may say, you may feel the intense reality of the movie. But what you are actually looking at is nothing but a piece of cloth in various kinds of illumination. So the idea is that what we're actually seeing is an infinite, eternal reality that has never been created, that can never be destroyed. And we're seeing it in different kinds of illumination. So in that sense, meditation then becomes the attempt to actually see that screen, to actually be convinced that the reality of what we're looking at is really the screen. We're affected by the movie, we may enjoy it, we may weep at what we see because some people are suffering in this movie. But we always know the reality is the screen. The reality of what we're looking at is the screen. So in meditation, the idea is to feel the presence, the reality of something which is always there, which you did not create and no one else has created, which is the essence of everything that we see. And to try to get closer, to try to get an experience, to be able to see that reality in all things. That is the attempt. But even the important thing is that whether we see it or not, whether we're able to make any progress or not, we have to admit that the reality of this movie that we're looking at is the screen and not the show. So we achieve detachment from the show. And we begin to be attached to the screen, the reality. In the same sense, everything that we perceive, within ourselves dwells God, the infinite, the eternal. Every one of us can feel that reality present within ourselves. And the things that we see on the surface, we have to pay attention to, we have to deal with, we have to face in so many different ways. But we should never forget, and that is the crucial thing, we should never forget that God, the reality, the infinite, the eternal, the basis of everything, whatever description you want to give is really what is here. We may have to pay attention to the details. We may have to deal with them in so many different ways. But the reality of what we're looking at every moment, should be felt within our hearts. We should feel that within our hearts there's an eternal truth, all Satchit Ananda, all existence, all consciousness, all joy, all bliss, eternally blissful. That is the reality within us. And Shanta Upasita, when we become calm, at the same time as becoming calm, we should intensely focus within that calmness on that what is eternally within us. It would be totally unreasonable if that which is our own inner being were impossible for us to realize. And actually that is the truth. At every moment we can feel the presence of that unchanging reality within ourselves. Every moment can be a slight bit of meditation, even if you're intensely active. Every moment we can feel that this external world is constantly changing, but within our hearts is that unchanging reality, and within the heart of everything is that same unchanging reality. Thank you.
Making an offering is an important aspect of performing religious rituals, and our first chorus musical offering today is the Sri Ramakrishna Stotram, Brahma Rupam Adi Madhya. And I would like to request the chorus participants to please make your way to the stage. chorus musical offering, Brahma Rupam Adi Madhya, was written by Swami Vivekananda, a disciple of Holy Mother, a sannyasi disciple of Swami Vivekananda, and the sixth president of the Ramakrishna order. The song is composed in the Tunaka mantra. This hymn unfolds the glory of Sri Ramakrishna. One who reads this every day overcomes all dangers. Japa, tapa, yagya, yoga and bhoga, all such things can be easily attainable sometime or the other. But a deep attachment for and devotion to Bhagavan Sri Ramakrishna is a rare achievement indeed. The chorus song will be led by Shumita Chakraborty, and the chorus singers are Karuna, Tanuja, Reshmi, Lavli, Indira, Nilanjana, Nabanita, Gangadhar, Shomo, Chitto, Prashun, Pinaki, Mohan and Nilotpal. The performance will be accompanied by Amitabh Ghosh on the tabla. Our second speaker this morning is Swami Prapandananda, Minister in charge of the Vedanta Society of Sacramento. After finishing his academic education at the University of Calcutta, Swami Prapandananda joined the Ramakrishna order and initiated disciple of Swami Vireshwarananda, the 10th president of the Ramakrishna order. Swami Prapandananda received his monastic vows in 1976. The Swami then served at the Rajkot Ramakrishna Mission in Gujarat for almost 20 years, doing important work in various fields of the center, including temple service, relief and rehabilitation, publication, book sales, dispensary and library work. He also spent 2 years in Belur Math for spiritual studies. He was appointed as minister and teacher of the Vedanta Society of Sacramento in 1996. The Swami regularly gives talks, conducts classes, and grants interviews at the center.
First, I thank Swami Prasannath for inviting me to this occasion. And I believe that I have probably attended all the previous 4th July functions organized by Vedanta Society of Berkeley. Now the point is this, that the subject that has been announced, it is Swami Vivekananda actually spoke from the point of view of how to attain to that state. I would like to describe or find out whether we can learn something from the ancient wisdom, how it can be attained, how we can translate into practice. You know, Lord Krishna has said that in Bhagavad Gita, elsewhere also, that the society is cast into 4 categories or 4 types of persons. Chaturvarna as it is called, that means 4 varnas. Brahman, Kshatriya, and Vaishya, Shudra, in that way. According to temperament, that is the most important one. We forget that, we have forgotten that, probably we shall have to forget that more intensely. It is according to our makeup of the mind. That means human beings, though look same, but definitely they are not same from the point of view when we look at them closely, physically, and definitely mentally they are different. So Lord Krishna said that in that way human beings have been created. And this point we see in Bhagavatam. There is a portion which is known as Uddhava Gita. He has explained or described in details to his disciple Uddhava. The background of this Uddhava Gita is like this, that when Lord Krishna was going to cast his body, when people came to know, devotees came to know. So Uddhava was his friend and also a distant relative, disciple. So he came to him running and said that, well, since you are leaving this world, so I also want to go with you. But Lord Krishna said that until and unless your karma is finished, you cannot really die. So then Uddhava said that if that is the case, then you please let me know or advise me in what way I should live after you have left the body. So Lord Krishna in a nutshell said that you practice your own spiritual practices, continue to practice your spiritual practices, and go to Badrikashram. That means they are in what is called Pravas, where Lord Krishna left his body. He said that you go to Badrikashram in Himalayas and practice your spirituality, at the same time teach spirituality. That means you are advanced. That when Lord Krishna left his body at the age of 120, he was also of the same age, I believe. So naturally, there was a time that he was really ready to teach people. So when this point came, he said that you please tell me in what way I shall teach. So during this conversation, one point was raised by Uddhava, that you please describe me in detail this varnashrama. What is the secret or what is the necessity in that way? You please explain to me how we can. It will be useful for me for teaching, giving your message to the devotees. Then actually he said that yes, from the ancient times our society has been created. It is God created. That means Lord Krishna has said that yes, I created. That means in nature actually it is evident. So Lord Krishna identifying himself with the what is called this nature or ultimate reality. He said that well, this has been created. And also varnashrama, ashrama is also important because everybody is growing. That means child is born and it dies at the end of the old age, and normally. So that is also there. These phenomena are continuing and it will continue, and it is as we see that in the past also it continued. So there is something that we can learn from the ancient wisdom, what Lord Krishna has said. And of course, this wisdom is repeated by him because this wisdom was already there. So he says that, well, there are 4 types of persons. That means Brahman, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, you know. That means Brahmanas are intellectual, they study and teach. And Kshatriyas are administrators or warriors, and Vaishyas make wealth by agriculture or by business, and Shudras actually do work. Incidentally, Swami Vivekananda has said this age, the age through which we are passing is actually Shudra Yuga. That means we are all Shudras now. We also serve because we have a job. That means the first criterion of economics is that how many what is the unemployment rate? That means employment. Employment means that we are employed. That means we are employees. That means we are working. So this is the age. That means where we see that everybody has been put into that category. But according to mental makeup, which is very important, and if we find if we look closely, that there will be and there is these differences in the mental makeup. So Brahmanas, that means they are professors or teachers and also the spiritual activities. So there is a category very intellectual. That means they delight in intellectual activities. There are Kshatriyas also. That means that they want to lead people. That means they are the leaders. And they want to protect people. That is also an important aspect because they have the power. In that way, that is also there. And then Vaishyas, because money is necessary and they know how to gather money or make money by business and also by producing agricultural produces. And also Shudras are there, which are very important because these categories of people not only serve the other people but all the physical work, if you call it, that means what needs to be done for the development of the society, they do. So in that way, the makeup, that means from the point of view of psychological point of view, if you call it, that they are there and we have to know that. That is an important thing for a teacher, in what way, what is their mind, in their mind. Then comes for individuals, you see there is a young person, that means those are students, brahmachari. Then actually after education they enter into the garhastha, that means which is married life, earning money, maintaining family, and maintaining the society also, because without grihastha the society will not run. And then there is a limit, that means physical limit is also there. Then when they become old, their children are born, then there is a time for retirement, manaprastha. And then of course there is sannyas, that is called. We are here mostly manaprasthis, that means I see the faces that are here, that means they have retired from the householder's life in one way, but seeking God. But they have not renounced the whole thing, that means they have not renounced the householder's life and gone to the forest or going to a place of pilgrimage and spending their time. So these are the categories, individual categories are there. So these type of category, the teachings for spirituality, that means the realization of the spirituality will depend upon this type of mental makeup. That is Lord Krishna emphasized. Now, one aspect that will be very common to us, that means those who are following the householder's life, especially those who are very active. That means, as I told you, we are vanaprastha. That means we are limited. Most of the retirees, if you call it, they are very limited and they have already into the life of, if you call it spirituality. That means they have understood that we have to do some spiritual practices to reach the goal. The important part of this teaching that we see is that from the very beginning there was a importance that once a person is born, wherever he is born, in whatever will be the makeup, whatever the station of the life, the goal of the life is the spiritual realization. That is the in what way we shall exit from this world, that is after liberation. And Lord Krishna, of course, had said in that discourse that, well, in the Satya Yuga, it is called, that means that when everything was all righteous, the people used to be born, they used to pass to the light, and they used to automatically have self-realization. That means they did not have to do any special, make any special effort. That means this varnashrama dharma, if somebody follows, they follow, that means they followed in large number, that is why it was Satya Yuga. That is why they reach the goal automatically. And that should be the ideal, that is the point. So when we say the spiritual way of facing the world means that we have to understand where we are. And from there actually we have to reach our goal. That means make the life spiritual. And goal of spirituality, as we know, just to end the cycle of birth and death, that means liberation. So let me just give a little bit detail how in the grihastha life, that means in the householder's life, they used to do. So they had 5 things that was compulsory. Compulsory means that they trained to do that what is known as, these words of course a little bit archaic, but still we can relate them to our present day. First is the Pitri Yoga, that means worship of our forefathers. That means from where we come, from whom actually we got these things. So to respect them and to maintain them and to advance them, that was the one of the practices that they need to do. And we also do in a large scale, may not be individually, but society does. That means maintaining heritage is very important for any civilized society. Then there is worship of fellow men. That is very important, and as we know that we do not live by ourselves, so there are many persons who are actually helping us, otherwise life would have been impossible to follow. So they are helping, so naturally in our part also we have to help them. That means we have to contribute something for the other beings. That we have to keep in mind. These principles, if we keep in mind, that is the point, we can take stock in our mind that whether I have done some, what is called Pitri Yoga, as it has been said, or this Manusya Yoga, if you call it in that way. Then there is also Bhuta Yoga, that means worship of other beings. Some human beings are there. So you know there are dogs and cats and whatnot. In India, cows are there. So naturally you have to be compassionate to them so that they also survive. Then there is Brahma Yoga, that means some spiritual knowledge that has come down, some sort of spiritual practices also we need to do for our spiritual growth. So in that way we see that 5 categories of practices. In ancient time it was there. We can definitely do that, or some of us unknowingly also doing that in the present day, in the present form. That means the only thing that we have to give a what is called modern term to this type of practices. Then naturally, as Lord Krishna has said in the ancient times, people used to attain to the highest by just by practicing this thing. So in future probably it will be possible if we those who are really practicing in natural course, in due course, they will have their own highest realization. So this is the simple thing that came to my mind. We can learn from the ancient wisdom and apply them to the present age, under present circumstances, and in that way we can attain to spirituality. Thank you very much.
Shumita Chakraborty will now perform the Nirvana Shatakam composed by Sri Adi Shankaracharya. Swami Tattvamayananda will now present to us his perspective on the spiritual way of facing the world. Swami Tattvamayananda is Minister in Charge, Vedanta Society of Northern California. In January 2012, Swami Tattvamayananda arrived from Belur Math, India, to serve as Assistant Minister to Swami Prabodhananda and became the Minister in charge of the society in July 2014. The Swami regularly gives talks and conducts classes at the Vedanta Society of Northern California.
Thank you for inviting me, Vedanta Society Berkeley, for participating in the program. My pronouns to all the Swamis, all the devotees, friends who are assembled here. So the subject, as you mentioned in the flyer, is the spiritual way of facing the world. I would like to look at the Vedantic way of facing the world, because the title seems to be a bit problematic and lopsided, in my opinion, because life in the world and spiritual life are not two different things. And one of the unique teachings of Sri Ramakrishna and Vivekananda in modern times was that we should spiritualize the secular. And from the beginning of our spiritual life, we just connect the secular with the spiritual, and eventually even the so-called spiritual life in the world also becomes spiritual. That is one of the central teachings of Vivekananda, and behind two of his major contributions to world religious thought, that is the concept of world, universal religion and practical Vedanta, was the spiritualization of every day, every moment, every act, every thought and every word of our life. That is one of his unique contributions. Now, if I just mentioned these two distinct contributions of Vivekananda. One is universal religion, the other is practical Vedanta. At the basis of these two concepts, there is Advaita Vedanta, that is the non-dualistic system of Vedanta. Of course, there are different shades of Vedanta philosophy, no doubt. Ramanuja system, Madhva system, Vallabha, Nimbarka, and so on. But the most universal and the most popular and the most rational approach is the non-dualistic approach. In non-dualistic philosophy, there are four approaches to reality, ontological reality. The eternal reality, which Vedanta calls Paramarthika, the empirical reality of everyday life and experience, the world in which we live, the things that we see, the persons whom we meet, the life that we live in this world. All these constitute what is called Vyavaharika, or the empirical reality. Paramarthika is the Sanskrit name for the absolute reality, this transcendental reality. At the third level, there is a conceptual reality which is called Pratibhasika. And then the mutually contradictory approach, which is nothing but the absolute non-existence. So I'm not going to the two lower layers of reality. I'm focusing on the transcendental and empirical, the Paramarthika and Vyavaharika. In fact, one of the great teachings of Nagarjuna in the Shunyavada philosophy is what he called the Samvruti Satya, it is the Vyavaharika, and the Paramarthika Satya, which he uses in Madhyamika Karya, the Sanskrit term used. Now, how do we make use of this Advaita philosophy? This idea, there is such a thing as the transcendental, eternal, absolute, unchanging reality. And then there is this changing empirical life and reality in which we live. How do we make use of this concept in our everyday life? In your workplace, in your office, in your home where you cook, when you fight with people, when you compete with people in this complex modern society. How do we actually put in practice this basic concept of Advaita? That's what I'm trying to present before you. Within a very short time, it's a terrible adventure, but let's try it. Now, you know, when we live in this world, there are many problems. Now, problems appear to be problems when we look upon the situation, this challenging, problematic situation, as something unchanging and permanent. So when we attribute permanence to things which are essentially impermanent, when you look upon the empirical realities, the worldly experiences, which we know to be impermanent and changing, when we look upon them as permanent, then only it becomes a problem for you. See, let's say suddenly there's a collapse in the stock markets, you lose money, you lose your job, you're looking for a new job, you're fired from your job. It's a common problem in the Silicon Valley. I need not explain to you what it means in real life. Children's education, homes, your loans, many things. People get problems in their domestic life when they lose their job. Now, why does this situation become so serious? Because we, for a minute, for some time, think that this jobless situation is a permanent state of affairs. Intellectually, we know that we will get a job very soon. But that reality doesn't help us to avoid becoming too anxious, too worried. See, look, suppose you're traveling in the Bay Area, in the traffic jam, traveling from Sacramento to San Francisco, for example. You're caught in a traffic jam. And there are vehicles behind you and vehicles in front of you. You are going to the airport perhaps. You are afraid you may miss your flight. And you know there is no way to get out of this. And you sit in your car, which is quite comfortable, and you get worried and worried and worried. But that worry doesn't help you to reach the airport 1 second earlier. But still we worry. So this is a problem that we actually create in our imagination. This is what really happens. It's a man-made problem. It's our imaginary problem. We go and worry. If you are suffering from heart problem, you are running for danger. It's a risky problem. Your pulse rate may go up, stress level may go up, and if you are suffering from diabetes, BP, it's a very great risk in becoming too worried, too anxious about a problem for which there is no solution in front of you, and you know very well that getting more worried, more anxious doesn't solve the problem. It doesn't help you to reach the airport 1 split second earlier. We know that, but still we worry. Now apply this principle in the totality of human life. This life and this world, by its very nature, is subject to changes. We know that. Even if you look at Swami Vivekananda knows physics, ask him how old this earth is and how old the universe is, how old the constellations, the stars, the Milky Ways are. They come into existence at one point of time in the past, maybe billions or millions of years back, and they will disappear or become something else after several millions or billions of years. So change and impermanence, momentariness, kshanikata, as Buddha called it. Vedantis call it, it is constant change. It's called vikara, shadvikara, constant changing. It is part of empirical existence. But we forget this every day. Every moment we face a problem, we forget this. Because we expect permanence from what is essentially, inherently impermanent. And we expect perfection from this world, which can never really be perfect. If the world became perfect, become Brahman, really. Because the world is world in which we are living, it has to be what it is. So very often in real life, we forget what we call the pratibhasigatvam, or the momentariness, the impermanence, the transience, the transient nature of the empirical world, that we forget for a minute and we worry too much. Now, in order to fully understand the dynamics of the empirical, you should know something about the dynamics of the transcendental. In Vedanta, the transcendental is birthless. It never came into existence and it never ceased to exist. Sadvikara Adida, Avasatraya Avadidatva, and the Kalatraya Adida, like that. These are different definitions which I have no time to go details into right now. What it means is, there is one absolute transcendental reality which is changeless. It did not come into existence because there is no time when it doesn't exist. It never disappears because there is no time when it doesn't exist. For the same reason, it is eternal. Now, everything else in this world, including the Himalayas, including the money you have put in your bank, and the job that you have right now, all these are subject to changes, but we forget this. So Vedanta gives a very wonderful, a psychologically very profound solution to every kind of problem that we face every day in our empirical secular life. That's why sometimes there's a great criticism against Advaita. Advaita is the transcendental. That's because people don't study Advaita from the traditional teachers. They don't study the original works written by Shankaracharya. He says, Karmanishthayaha chitta suddhidvarena pushartha hetutam na swadandriyana jnananishtha swadandriyana pushartha hetuhu anyan apeksha. Every kind of work that you do, a word you speak, a deed you do, a thought you think, all these can be linked to something transcendental. It becomes a yoga, it becomes a royal highway leading to the highest spiritual destination, and also it reduces the problem of facing the problems of empirical world. A problem is a problem only when you do not realize it's a problem. See, if you have a traffic jam in front of you, if you know there's a delay after 10 miles, you take a different route, and then the problem is solved. You don't face the problem. A problem is a problem when we are not aware of the problem. When you become aware of the problem, it's not a problem at all. You take it in stride. So like that, Vedanta gives a very wonderful solution. If we always remember the momentariness, the impermanence of the empirical life situations, the job where you lose, or the money that you lose in the bank, or dear ones passing away, you come, of course, when you go to the crematorium, you think that's the end of the world. No, it's not the end of the world. Life doesn't begin with birth and doesn't come to an end when the body is pushed to the crematorium. The tomb doesn't end there. You come back again. So Vedanta actually is a very wonderful, very realistic way of living in this world, still being, as Sri Ramakrishna says, not being on the world. This higher truth should be kept somewhere in your pocket to take out whenever there is a problem, and you can go on living in this world. That's what Sri Ramakrishna says. The transience, the momentariness, the changeable nature of the empirical worldly life is a reality which everyone knows. Every kindergarten child knows that this world is changing. Here our body is changing every minute. So also the world is changing. Our mind is changing. But we frequently forget this. There's a reason for it. That if there's an interaction, you can ask me. I shall try to explain to you. Thank you. Namaskar.
chorus offering of the Sannyasi Giti in Kannada. The Sannyasi Giti, or the Song of the Sannyasin, was a poem composed by Swami Vivekananda at the Thousand Island Park, New York, in July 1895. This epic poem by Swami Vivekananda reflects the nature and calling of the sannyasi. Swamiji discusses the concepts, beliefs, and ideals of sannyasa or monastic life. The Song of the Sannyasin has been referred to as the Bible of Bengal because it acts as an inspiration, solace, and guidance for Hindu monks, especially the monks of the Ramakrishna order. Our next speaker is Swami Ishadhyanananda. Swami Ishadhyanananda is the new Assistant Minister of the Vedanta Society of Sacramento, and he arrived at the center in August 2017. Before coming to the United States, Swami Ishadhyanananda served as the treasurer of the Jamshedpur branch of the Ramakrishna Mission from 2013 to 2017. Prior to that, he had been posted at the headquarters office in Belur Math. Swami Ishadhyanananda joined the Ramakrishna order in 2002 after completing his MSc. He was initiated by Swami Atmasthanananda, the 15th president of the Ramakrishna order, and he received his monastic vows in 2012.
Respected Swamijis and dear Vedantins, I thought I would be the last speaker because I am the youngest, and in the Ramakrishna order, priority is given to the seniors. So anyway, it is just before lunch, good gathering, and then it will be followed by good food. So the topic is spiritual way of facing the world. When I was thinking about the topic, I thought facing this word, face, is always have a connotation which is like facing the interview, facing the music, as we say. It always means facing something which is unpleasant. And I believe when this topic was chosen, what was in the back of mind was how to face or handle the suffering of the world. Because when we are happy, everything is going fine as we are expecting, we don't usually, most of us, we don't think about God. We don't need spirituality as such. Most of us, spiritual life, spiritual questions, surrender to God, all these things start when we start suffer. And there is nothing wrong in it. At first it may appear to be selfish, but there's nothing wrong in it. Lord Krishna in Bhagavad Gita says, 4 types of people worship me. And what are the 4 types? Wow, so many people know so many things. So he says 4 types of people worship me, but all of them are of virtuous deeds. All of them are of virtuous deeds. It is through their virtue that these 4 types of people come to me. Who are they? Artha. Artha means those who are afflicted, those who are going through suffering. This type of person come to me, worship me, surrender to me. Second type of person, artharthi, means those who are seekers of wealth. They also come to me. Thirdly, jigyasu, those who want to know their real nature or nature of God. Who is God? What is my real nature? Jigyasu. And fourthly, jnani, an illumined person who already knows what is their true nature. So these 4 types of people, the first 3 types of people come to God with desire. Artha, with the desire of getting rid of the afflictions. Artharthi, with the desire of getting wealth. For these 2 types of people, God is means for their ends. God is the end in itself. But Jigyashu, God is in end itself. But still, it is a desire, a subtle desire to know God. I want to know God. And Jnani means who has no more desire, but love comes continuously because Jnani knows true nature of herself or himself, that it is non-different from God. So he loves God or she loves God for the sake of love. Okay. So there is no wrong in coming to God or coming to spirituality when we are suffering, when we are in pain, when we are in affliction. As human beings, we want to make sense of the world. If we see around all the developments that have taken place, one of the reasons is we want to make sense of the world. But time comes when we cannot make sense. Very near and dear one faces an untimely death. One's child dies. A kind of chronic disease, loss of near and dear ones, financial losses. These are the time when we cannot make sense of what is happening. There is pain, physical pain, financial pain, or the pain or the of loss of near and dear ones. But apart from them, there is an emotional components in all of them which is more painful. Why me? Why me? And is the world feared? Is God feared that this type of crisis has come to me, upon me? So these are the questions which we cannot make sense of. Then we need answers to these questions. So when we are suffering, we can have three options before us. Number one, try to suppress them. Try to numb the suffering. That is what we see. People take to addiction, drinking, to ignore suffering, to numb the suffering. And we watch in movies that person gets, the girlfriend leaves the boyfriend and the boyfriend drinks alcohol for 3 days and it passes out and come out, it appears the problem has solved. This option, trying to suppress the pain, the suffering, does not work. It will come back again and again. It does not work. You may talk to anybody who tried to do that through the means of addiction to people, addiction to gambling, addiction to drug, addiction to alcohol, whatever you say, it does not work. You have second option. Accept the suffering. Accept the suffering. And here, Vedanta comes. Vedanta promotes acceptance of suffering. And it gives different means of accepting the suffering. First of all, Vedanta believes in laws of karma. Laws of karma means it is not a random thing happening to you. It is not a punishment from God. It is a just thing happening to you because of your past wrongdoings, maybe in this life or some previous life. So we come in terms of, making sense of. So it is not a random thing happening to me. It is not why me. The question should be, as I found someone in Sacramento, there is a friend. He has gone through tremendous suffering, tremendous. You cannot imagine what kind of suffering he has gone through. But he is cheerful and is a volunteer, very compassionate person, helps others who are in suffering. I asked him, don't you have this question, why me? He said, no, I asked, why not me? Why not me? So, Vedanta says that the suffering is not a punishment or it is not a random thing. It is just following the law of karma. That does not mean that we have to passively accept everything. We have to be passive about everything. Law of karma also suggests that if what I did in my past is determining my present, so my present will determine my future. So let me walk in the path of dharma. Let me walk in the path of morality so that the future will be better. This is one way. Second way, as Swami Tattvamayana was saying, that even in Bhagavad Gita, if you see the second chapter, Sri Krishna says that pain, suffering are all in the body and mind. But inside is the soul which does not suffer. This suffering of the body and mind is a temporary thing. The soul which is inside, which does not suffer at all. Knowing this, one can accept sufferings, pains in a much graceful way. Thirdly, suffering and happiness, good times, bad times, are all given by God. Given by God. So accept both of them. Fourthly, surrender to God. Pray to God that give me strength to accept the pain and suffering. It is interesting to note that pain management is a part of medical field, medical science, how to manage pain better. And if you look at the literature, you will find that basically there are two approaches to pain management. One is control-based and acceptance-based. Control-based means try to control your pain, how to lessen your pain, different methods. Acceptance-based pain management refers to try to accept the pain realistically, but at the same time try to do whatever the doctor is suggesting to do. And in most of the cases it has been found that acceptance-based mechanism, coping mechanism as they say, works much better. Those who accept their pain and suffering can tolerate their pain much better. Those who want to control their pain, want to control, lessen their pain desperately, they cannot tolerate pain compared to their counterpart who accept the pain. So the main thing is first accept the suffering. This was the second option. First option was trying to suppress it, which does not work in the long run. Second option was accept it. Thirdly, if we accept our suffering, something unique happens, something wonderful happens. We grow spiritually. When we accept our suffering, what happens? Priorities of life changes. Those who have gone through huge sufferings, huge pain, they know that they suddenly feel that priorities need to be changed. There are trivial things I was engaged with. Now I have to concentrate on things that really matter. It's an opportunity to grow. Secondly, when we accept these things, we become seriously interested into deep questions of life. What is the meaning of life? What is the purpose of life? Is there anyone called God? What is the relationship between us? This type of questions come to many, those who have gone through suffering. It's an opportunity to grow. Then we understand our vulnerability. We think we are in control of everything. Our wealth, our status is enough for us. Suddenly we feel, no, they are not enough. We are vulnerable. We need help of people around us. So relationship becomes important to many of us. So I started with Bhagavad Gita, that quote, Chaturvidha bhajanti mam, janaha sukrito arjuna, arto jiggasu artharthi, gyanicha bhartasya. 4 types of people come to me, worship me. They are either afflicted or seeker of wealth or seeker of knowledge or the illumined one. In his commentary to this verse, Madhusudana Saraswati writes something very interesting. He says that these 4 types of people indicates 4 stages of devotion. Okay, So there is no harm in coming to God or coming to spiritual life with the desire of getting rid of suffering or afflictions. But when one comes with that, gradually that person changes. That person becomes Jiggashu, wants to know God. Although the first motive was to get rid of suffering, but then gradually starts to know God, try to know his or her real nature. And from that, he or she becomes Jnani, ultimately, illumined one. So there was nothing wrong in coming to God or coming to spiritual life with the aim of getting rid of suffering. And when one becomes Jiggashu or Jnani, the love is spontaneous. That love to God is desireless, whether it be in happy situation or in the sad situation. We love God all the while because we cannot but love God. This is called Nishkama Bhakti. Devotion without any desire. That is the highest kind of devotion. And in Sri Ramakrishna, as Sri Ramakrishna has said, a devotee who has surrendered to God, who loves God, what happens to him or her? His or her life becomes like a big ship. Others' life are like boat. If there is a storm, it starts shaking, tossing. It may even drown. But a devotee who believes in God, who has accepted the suffering as a gift of God, as law of karma, and started surrendering everything to God, his or her life becomes like a ship. Even there is tempest, there is storm, his or her boat shakes a while and then remains steady. And we see there are many examples I have seen in my life, many devotees, those who have gone through tremendous suffering gracefully with this firm conviction, it was God who gave us, it was God who taken away. So, how to face the world spiritually, I just wanted a few ideas before you. Thank you.
Our next program is a recitation of the poem To the 4th of July by Pinaki Mukherjee. This poem was composed by Swami Vivekananda in 1898 when he was visiting Kashmir with a group of devotees. And this poem was composed by him to celebrate and commemorate the American Independence Day.
Namaskar. To the 4th of July, Swami Vivekananda. Behold, the dark clouds melt away, that gathered thick at night and hung, so like a gloomy pall above the earth. Before thy magic touch, the world awakes. The birds in chorus sing, the flowers raise their star-like crowns, dew set, and wave the welcome fair. The lakes are opening wide in love, their 100,000 lotus eyes are to welcome thee with all their depth. All hail to thee, thou Lord of light. A welcome new to thee today. O Sun, today thou sheddest liberty. Bethink thee how the world did wait and search for thee through time and clime. Some gave up home and love of friends, and went in quest of thee, shelf vanished, through dreary oceans, through primeval forest. Each step a struggle for their life or death. Then came the day when work bore fruit and worship, love and sacrifice fulfilled, accepted and complete. The light of freedom on mankind. Move on, O Lord, in thy resistless path, till thy high noon overspreads the world, till every land lifts up thy light, till men and women with uplifted head behold their shackles broken and know in springing joy their life renewed.
Now, Swami Prasannatmananda has a very special announcement for you.
Yes, we have a very special announcement. In the year 1900, Swami Vivekananda visited the United States, second time. Because Swami Vivekananda visited the United States 2 times. First in 1893 and second in 1900. So when he visited second time in 1900, he visited East Coast, especially the Bay Area. He came from West Coast. He visited West Coast and especially the Bay Area, and he came from LA to Oakland and San Francisco. So during his 4-month stay here in the Bay Area, he spent 14 days in Samuel P. Taylor State Park, also known as Camp Taylor, camping there with few devotees from May 2nd to May 15th, 1900. He spent those 14 days in different spiritual moods, and several remarkable incidents took place at that time at Camp Taylor. On 2 previous occasions, the Vedanta Society Berkeley organized bus tours to visit the spots where Swami Vivekananda spent time during his visit to the Bay Area, and Camp Taylor was one of those places that we visited. However, for a few years now, devotees have been requesting earnestly to have a spiritual retreat at Camp Taylor. We are very happy to convey you this information that finally, by the grace of Swamiji and honoring the wish of the devotees, we have been able to organize a spiritual retreat at Camp Taylor this year. Which is scheduled for Saturday, September 7th. Last year, we had commemorated the 125th anniversary of Swami Vivekananda's historic lecture at 1893, delivered in 1893 at the World Tournament of Religions, and we celebrated for that commemoration the program on September 8 at the First Unitarian Church, Oakland, where Swamiji delivered 8 lectures. Exactly after 1 year, this year, we are going to organize the spiritual retreat on September 7th at Camp Taylor Park. However, please bear in mind that there will be very limited accommodation and very limited accommodation in the campground. for attending the spiritual retreat because of rule. So please register as early as possible if you would like to participate. We will close the registration once the permitted number will be filled up. You can register with your names, emails and phone numbers at the bookstall outside or online through our website or call any of the centers. We hope you will be able to attend this very special spiritual retreat. There will be to and fro bus arrangement from San Jose and Bali.